business jihad, the plot to drive out religious minorities in India. And I apologize in advance if I pronounce the name of things wrong. In the Indian state of Uttarakhand, escalating tensions between Hindus and Muslims culminated in the forced exodus of many Muslims from the town of Purola, following an incident that reignited accusations of love jihad and spurned a new conspiracy termed business jihad. This unfolded after two men, one being Muslim, were accused of kidnapping a Hindu girl who was a minor, inciting the right wing Hindu groups to mobilize against the Muslim community. Amid the atmosphere of fear and violence, Muslim owned businesses were targeted and vandalized. Zahid Malik, a Muslim member of the BJP who had been living in Purola for over 30 years, recounted his harrowing experience, saying, quote, "I had no option but to leave because there were clear threats that we will be harmed if we do not leave before June 15th. Even though I am associated with the ruling party, sadly, I did not get any help from the administration." So let me provide a little bit more context. So, in the state of Uttarakhand, I think an important context to remember is many people will remember about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, there were these vitriolic hate speeches that were going on in India. They were happening in a city called Hardivar. And I mean, if you're not familiar, these are some of the most fascistic, like Yahtzee style speeches I have ever heard. I'm talking like oaths to keep India Hindu nation, saying that they'll do whatever it takes, even getting violent to make India a Hindu nation, and a lot of very, very extreme hate speech that went internationally. It was international news because of how shocking it was, right? So this happened in the same state. This is all kind of, in part of the local consciousness, right? Okay, so there's this little town or district called Purola. And in this area, there was an attempted kidnapping. And there was a girl, I don't know how old she was, but she was legally a minor who was attempted to be kidnapped by two men. One comes from a Hindu background and one comes from a Muslim background. And because one of these men who was arrested by the police, like he's being prosecuted, they're both being prosecuted, right? Because one of these men who attempted to do this horrific crime um, was Muslim. It gave the excuse of local Hindutva parties and activists, including people from the VHP, people from the BJP, excuse me, to go and create this conspiracy that not only is this an aspect of love jihad, which is a conspiracy basically that Muslim men are deceptively marrying Hindu women to then reveal that they're Muslim and then make force them to be Muslim, and then this is gonna change the demographics of India ultimately. So it went from an allegation of love jihad to people giving hate speeches saying that they're business jihadis in their neighborhood. And what this means is they're basically painting in these speeches that were given, saying that all these like working class, like Muslim men, they were all jihadis. They're business jihadis, and these mechanics, these delivery boys, these, I don't know, like, construction workers, carpenters, whatever. They're all actually business jihadis because then they're in your neighborhood because they're doing business with you, which gives them access to your women. This is part of the idea behind it. And this caused rioting. This caused people to be explicitly given notice that they had to leave, and there were multiple families, and I believe at least around a dozen businesses that were expelled, straight up, like, expelled from this area, and these are Muslim businesses that have been a part of like, people moved into this area, like, decades ago, people who have been a part of these community for, like, over 30 years, expelled in the span of, like, 2 weeks because of all these tensions. And it was really sad to read some of the stories of the people that were expelled because they were talking about how They moved to this area like years ago with their family. They loved living there, that they had a good business, that they had good relations with the community, that they I mean, these are one of the guys that was interviewed, he was saying like, "I would go celebrate Diwali with like my Hindu neighbors. Like all my friends are Hindus. All my friends are Hindus. They would come celebrate like Eid with me." But when people started threatening me and putting up notices on doors, like written notices saying that you gotta be expelled, and um, then I just lost my train of thought, shoot. Basically, he was saying that it hurt him so much that no one defended him, that these people that were a part of his community for decades did not defend him when he's been a part of their celebrations in their community, in their life, when they're receiving notices on their door that they have to get expelled within the span of 2 weeks or someone will come hurt them. And, um, there was this guy who even said that he was a Muslim leader of, like, the BJP minority groups, and he was saying, like, "Even I'm not protected. There was no one came to protect me. I had to leave." Now, people from the BJP in that area have disputed that he was actually involved in the way that he said he was, so take that as you will. But in general, he's saying, like, I'm leaving the BJP now because I supported this party for so long, and now it's come hit me, and they turned their back on me." Um, and in some of these instances of the vandalism and property damage that happened to these businesses, Armin, this is what was shocking to me, is that you can see that they were marking Muslim businesses. They would go and put X's on the doors, go mark which businesses belong to Muslims to go make sure that they're targeted later or to make sure that they're watched. Which is very disturbing to me. That out of everything that happened in this event, that marking of the businesses was probably what disturbed me the most.
It
Um,
reminds you of something that happened back at some point in history, right? I don't know if I could put my finger on it,
yeah,
but yeah, like
it
there was
really does make you think about something
right.
that happened when a certain man with a very special mustache came to power. Um, that's disturbing, deeply, deeply disturbing. So
Are we gonna have eating jihad? Like walking jihad in the India in the future? Like, oh, you're walking here. We have walking jihad. We have breathing. Are we gonna have breathing jihad?
we
Like they're
basically
breathing
already
our
do,
air?
there was spit jihad, that was one. There was land jihad, which had to do with when you're praying in public, like, being religious in public, that's now land jihad, that was one
Breathing,
of
no,
them.
breathing. You have to make one breathing jihad. Breathing jihad. You're breathing our air. That's what's gonna come.
Yeah. No, spit jihad was one because apparently Indian Muslims have, like, this tradition or something that when you have fresh food or something, you, like, blow on it to, like, bless it, and they were saying that they're spitting in the food, but actually they're just kinda, like, breathing over it to bless it. It's some tradition that I'm not too familiar with, so that's basically breath jihad, like, um, but Armin, so now that I provided more background and context on this, and we can go see in the video, our lovely editor D, love you D, included a video to show some of the violence.
Oh
Yeah,
my
here we go.
god.
Um,
Oh my.
so we
Okay,
can watch a little bit of that if you want.
before I play the video, I do want to. A lot of people are attacking Hindu historian for what he is saying here, but I do agree with Hindu historian here. Okay, there are a lot of things that you could blame on Hinduism, but this you can't find in Hinduism, right? Like for example, anything caste related, for example, I could. I'm not like defending Hinduism. Hinduism has a lot of disgusting teachings that you could point to. Most importantly, caste, okay, the caste system, right? But this is not in Hinduism. This is like, I mean, we're still
No,
this is part of Hindutva
yeah,
ideology, right? This is part of I don't know BJP ideology. This is part of like the rise of far right, um, conservatism and far right nationalism in India.
mhm,
Is part of that ideology. But there's nothing specific in Hinduism that you could point to that
Exactly, and I would never
yeah, yeah,
attribute any of this directly to Hinduism. The reason why
yeah.
we're covering this is not because it has to do with Hinduism specifically, but it's because there is a religious minority that is being targeted. That's why
Yeah,
this
no,
is
but
that's why we're covering
but
it,
it
right?
but but the new ideology is still religious. Okay, so Hinduism is, I think, like Hindu. You know how QAnon comes out of evangelical Christianity and is mixed with a whole bunch of stuff, and it's now its own cult religion, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
even Hindutva, it's its own religion. I mean, it's not Hinduism; it's related to Hinduism. So even if it's just Hindutva alone and it's not Hinduism, I still think it's a religion.
Yeah, in the same way that, like,
It's a
Christian
modern
nationalism is, like, its own weird religion now, like, QAnon is its weird own religion now.
yeah, it's a modern Hindutva is
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
modern religion that has Hindu branding. That's how I see it. Yeah. But anyway,
Mhm,
let's watch this
mhm,
video.
mhm,
What?
mhm.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Are you They're saying Jai Shri Ram.
Of
So for
course.
people who don't know, Jai Shri Ram means glory to God, Ram,
Lord Rama.
right? Lord Rama. And Lord Rama is one of the avatars of Vishnu,
Mhm.
the most important one, actually. Wow. Unbelievable.
Mhm. And here's the thing,
That is insane.
there were a number of families that were legit expelled. They were legitimately expelled from this area. They had to just go and leave and try to find a place to open up their businesses in a different district or a different town or something, because they very quickly were like, "We gotta get out of here. This genuinely is unsafe for us." And
This
what's
is
interesting, I
crazy.
think I saw some people say this in the live chat, that there are people who are excusing this by saying that this is what Kashmiri Pandits had to go through, this is what Kashmiri Hindus had to go through, so now it's the Muslims' turn. Which
This
is, like,
is how
I can't even deal with mentality. Oh my god. I can't believe
what
I
is
need to
it?
go on wait, Armin, I need to say this. There are
Okay, go
people
right.
that legitimately watched the Kashmir Files, which is it's a absurd propaganda puff piece for those who don't know. Like, it's a bad movie, like, legitimately, it's just a bad movie, even if it wasn't propaganda. Um, but I cannot believe that you're watching this movie called Kashmir Files about the ethnic cleansing and horrific violence that Hindus in Kashmir survived, or maybe they didn't, which needs to be appreciated and discussed frankly and openly and honestly, because a lot of people don't wanna be clear about what happened to the Hindus there, and I will go, like, toe to toe with anyone that's trying to deny that shit, right? But how can people see that experience, even when it's so sensationalized in that movie, and say, "You know what? You know what we need to do? We need to go do what the bad guy terrorists are doing." That's the takeaway from this movie. The disgusting, like, death worshiping terrorists in that movie who we villainize and find abhorrent for good reason in this movie, The Kashmir Files. The takeaway, the lesson that we're gonna learn here is that actually what we need to do is go be that people to someone else. It's obscene and absurd to me. It breaks my brain. Okay, I got that out of my system. Armin, I'm sorry I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
No, I just wanted to say this is, first of all, somebody identified the logical fallacy. It's two wrongs don't make it right, right? But it's also, even if two wrongs did make it right, these are not the same people. This is how your mind works on collectivism. When you hold an entire community responsible for the actions of some people within that community. Okay. This is why collectivism just breaks your brain. Okay. This is why we need to promote individualism, where people are responsible for for their own actions, not for the actions of other people within within their community.